There's no such thing as a healthy sedentary person. Oof. This is a non-negotiable. It's a one core principle that they must get down is you have to be physically active.
What are the top 3 things that you recommend for high performers?
Very easy. Number 1.
She is a physician. She is a New York Times bestselling author.
She's an expert in geriatrics, in nutrition, in health, and longevity.
Dr. Gabrielle Lyon.
The more overweight you are, the wider your waistline, the lower the brain volume.
Fatter you are, dumber you are?
You heard it here, folks.
Okay, just make sure I'm tracking.
The average American is eating around 300 grams or so of carbs a day. The recommendation is 130 grams.
Wait, what?
Anything above that, you have to earn through exercise. You cannot wait for motivation. It's never going to come. The fact of me not taking that action, number 1, it compounds. Number 2, you're going to worry about it all day. And number 3, you are slowly actually getting more unwell the less that you do. The biology doesn't like chaos. If you are going to intermittent fast, great, but stick to those feeding windows. If it's 8 to 9 hours, then stick to that.
If you want to be the guaranteed unhealthiest person you can be, what do you do? Inverse thinking.
Perfect.
This episode, The Body Reset, all about how you should eat, exercise for fat loss and health. We're going to nail it all today in as little time as possible with the one expert I trust more than anybody else, Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. If you feel like your brain isn't functioning at the level that you want it to function at, or if you feel like right now in your life, your health overall isn't at the tippy-tappy, don't worry, you can see my doctor. Gabrielle Lyon's going to break it down for us live. Let's get into it with my friend and trusted confidant who now becomes your doctor too. On the Big Deal podcast, I'm Codie Sanchez. Why should someone who just scrolled to this and is listening, why should they stay here? What are we going to give them from listening to this episode?
Any entrepreneur, anyone interested in business or doing well in life cannot outpace their biology. And if you want to do well or achieve or whatever it is that drives you, you must be healthy. It's how to eat, how to move, how to think, how to recover, because we all know that there's a huge delta between information and action. It's exactly what to do.
Yeah, I need that. I don't actually want to guess. I want to be bossed around when it comes to
I got
health.
you covered.
I know you do. You're
and
always
recipes.
bossing me around.
Here's what to eat.
Yeah. Yeah, because you've had 2 kids.
Yes.
You work
and a
nonstop
man-child. That's right.
and a very large former Navy SEAL man-child.
I know.
This is how we became buddies. And yet you're jacked and healthy and have a huge business. So actually, let's start here. For entrepreneurs, it's not just about being healthy and having a 6-pack. There's a lot that your studies have shown that I've seen that say there's ties between exercise and brain health. What do the studies tell us about exercise and brain health?
Well, first of all, exercise because you are focusing on muscle. And for those listening, muscle is the organ of longevity. It is an organ system that we have taken for granted forever, meaning the thyroid is also an organ system we have no control over. Skeletal muscle is the only organ system we have voluntary control over. So when we choose to engage in cardiovascular exercise or resistance training, we become smarter humans. And we also, depending on the way in which we train, can think faster.
What is the right way to train in order to think faster?
Train fast.
And does that mean like I'm doing sprints?
Yeah, some kind of sprint interval. So here is how I think about training. First of all, here's how I think about muscle. Muscle is the sink for metabolism. For the entrepreneur, they are worried about brain function. They're worried about Alzheimer's. And the healthier your brain is, the less likely you are going to get Alzheimer's, because Alzheimer's is type 3 diabetes of the brain. If you want to be a good entrepreneur, then you have to have the physical skills in place, which is resistance training, which is a physical skill, to build and maintain muscle. It doesn't get easier. You have to do some kind of cardiovascular activity, again, for brain function, for healthy vasculature. And it's not much more complex than that. We could talk about mobility. We could talk about all these other things. But if someone is listening to the podcast or watching, the chances are extremely high that they're not training, because 74% of Americans are not meeting the baseline recommendation of 150 minutes and 2 days a week of resistance training.
So in order to hit what you have to hit to have a smarter brain, not get Alzheimer's, perform, you have to do what?
3 days a week of resistance training, at least one session of high intensity interval training, or somehow meet that 150 minutes. But if I were to choose the perfect plan for you, it would be step 1, 3 days a week of resistance training. Step 2, add in 1 day a week or 2, but we can just say 1, of high intensity interval training, 20 minutes. A minute on, a minute off. Step 3, move more. If you are taking calls, walk. If you are yelling at your kids, which I'm just talking from a friend's perspective, then walk. Whatever it is that you are doing, that you have the opportunity to be sedentary, move. And that will cover your physical needs. You will also have a less likely chances of dying from nearly all-cause mortality, from anything, because you're active.
That's wild. Yeah, I mean, you're so good at this. Like, I see you all the time. Whenever I FaceTime you, you're lifting your 2 children all around who are
With
adorable.
1 finger, just like 1 finger.
No, they're on these sleds, like, and you're pushing them, and then you guys are doing push-ups. It's pretty incredible how you have integrated workouts into your life with your kids. I really struggle with that. You know this because
Do you?
yeah, I can't even get the 10,000 steps a day in. Gabrielle, help me. How do I get my
Is this
10,000
true? So
steps?
this is a non-negotiable because there's no such thing as a healthy sedentary person.
Oof.
And also muscle, we want it to look like a fillet. One of the main problems that happens is when we are sedentary, our muscle transitions from looking like a fillet to a Wagyu steak.
Which is more expensive, but not great. in
And
this
also
instance.
not very
Fatty.
strong.
Yeah.
Also, it affects, for guys, erections. The more healthy muscle, we just published this paper, and the paper demonstrates that the more healthy muscle mass you have, the greater sexual function you have.
Wow. So does that just mean more erections or longer erections?
More healthy, harder erections. So now that we've gotten the attention of every single man in the world, let me tell you this. By the age of 40, 40% of men will have erectile dysfunction.
Whoa.
By the age of 50, 50% of men will suffer from erectile dysfunction.
And the cure to it is lift heavy.
One cure to it is lift and get your cardiovascular activity, because that's the plumbing.
So this isn't like the little blue pill, because I think the doctors get it wrong. They're like, you'll have an erection forever. All the wives are like, please, dear God, no. Can you please?
This has been going on over 24 hours. That's a medical emergency.
You're like, if it's more than 5 minutes, I'm out. But actually what this does instead, it's not duration. It's like when you want one, it'll come. It'll be there for the period in which you want it, as opposed to some sort of monster penis.
Yeah, we don't want that. And by the way, if you also do not use your genitalia, if you do not use your penis, you will lose it.
What does
Men,
that mean?
this is crazy, but you can lose a centimeter
From just not
from
getting...
your penis if you are not getting erection and you are not having sex over a period of time, if you're not getting blood flow to that muscle, it is a use it or lose it muscle.
Whoa. That is wild.
And
that's a clip.
You're welcome. But anyway, I say all of this because as an entrepreneur, I'm one myself, you have to be very focused. Mm-hmm. And the more discerning you are and the less distracted you are, you can take the next right step. There are only a handful of things that really distract people. Again, I've been taking care of entrepreneurs for more than 15 years. Their health becomes very distracting. And they will say, I don't have time for exercise. And then I will say, well, how are you going to have time for sickness?
Yeah.
And so one core principle that they must get down is you have to be physically active.
So what hacks do you have for like busy people who have too much going on, who have all the excuses in the world like me? How do we make sure that we prioritize exercise?
It has to be non-negotiable. It has to be built into your calendar. I cannot believe that you are not getting your 10,000 steps. I think that we have to have a major discussion.
We're going to have an intervention.
Yeah, we need an intervention.
Okay, fine.
So number one, you cannot wait for motivation. It's never going to come. Some people, like our husbands, love to train. The rest of the world, I'm already bitching about my workout on Wednesday starting Tuesday night. But I'm still going to do it because the fact of me not taking that action, number one, it compounds. Number two, you're going to worry about it all day. And number three, you are slowly, it's not the opposite of physical activity. You're actually getting more unwell the less that you do.
What about the saying that people say lately where it's like, if you had to choose between 10,000 steps a day or 10 minutes of intense exercise, it would be better to do 10 minutes or like 10 minutes of squats instead of 10,000 steps. What's the truth between the two?
So for me, I would say that the more intense, the better. And I can equate this to if you're doing work. You would rather have 10 minutes of excellent work than a day of, I don't know what I accomplished.
That's a good point. Unless you're my employee, then we want better than 10 minutes. You're like, I'm done. David's like, done for the day. I heard it first here.
But it's a really small hack, and entrepreneurs and business owners can not afford to train, because one of the biggest things that take people out is being sick. It's extremely easy to be well.
Well, also, I mean, I kind of feel better about that because 10,000 steps actually takes a long time at my rate of stepping, apparently. That's like an hour.
Is that true?
Yeah. I mean, it's like what, 4 miles or something like that, 10,000 steps, which means that I need an hour walking plus like an hour for my lifting. Plus, I'm working. Plus my husband likes to hang out way too much. You know this. It's the same thing
My
with
kids
yours.
are about to be here. It's going to be.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah.
Just wait till the cameras start crashing. This is like.
Hey, you said to bring them, but you couldn't easily, if I were to give you just a few hacks, you can get a treadmill dust.
Yeah.
You can do that.
And they're like $100 on Amazon. So if you have very little money, very little time, what are the top 3 things that you recommend for high performers?
Very easy. Number 1, get yourself a treadmill desk. Number 2, get either a kettlebell or some kind of resistance band. And number 3, have your first meal of the day, let's just call it a protein shake, set and ready to go.
That's good.
So easy.
I don't do any of those things.
Dude,
How
I
are
know
we
your
best
doctor.
buds?
How is this possible?
I know. I'm changing it up. I'm on it. Somebody write this down. Okay. But it's kind of helpful because I think in my brain, I built this thing up, and I think a lot of people listening are probably the same. You're like, I hear from Andrew Huberman, I got a 47-step routine, and then I got cold plunge, and then I got ice baths, and then I got da. And at some point, I'm like, I can't wear my Lululemon leggings because I'm going to get cancer.
You're not going to be, no, you're going to be okay with this.
I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
So really at the end of the day, there's fewer, better things that we can do that drive most of the performance.
Humans love novelty. And novelty is one of the biggest distractions for health. We already have great innovations. It's kind of like the phone. We had the flip phone, we had the rotary phone, then we had the flip phone, then there was like the 1980s juggernaut of a phone, and now we have the iPhone. Do we really need another phone? No, we need to upgrade our software. Humans love novelty. We like the smoking diet and the phentermine diet and the cabbage soup diet. But our biology, we have a drive to eat a certain way. And once we put those foundational pieces in place, then we can chase less novelty. So, for example, anchoring your day in a high quality protein, 1 shake. It affects brain function. You're going to be much less likely to eat any of the snacks in your fucking snack room, which is like chips, and I don't even know who designed that.
We need to have you go through that.
But the reality is you augment your willpower. So right now people think they have to depend on their own willpower. But if you prioritize your diet well, then you're not chasing these ebbs and flows of blood sugar. Something very simple, practical, and tactical is 30 grams of protein first thing in the morning.
What are examples of fast ways to get protein in the morning? If you had 5 options, what are they?
Protein shake. It could be a whey protein shake. If you don't like whey, it could be a rice pea blend. Greek yogurt, not hard. 6 eggs or a handful of eggs. Some people like steak and eggs. You can have a chicken patty. You can have, some people eat salmon for breakfast. There's a million different ways to do it.
Okay. All right. So we nail this in the morning. What other high performance daily routines do you have that we can steal?
Yep. Get outside first thing in the morning. Good sleep starts in the morning. Also, consistent sleep-wake times. If you are someone who has the tendency to stay up late, don't. Decide that your bedtime is going to be 10. You go to bed every night at 10. And you wake up at the same time.
I do that. I'm really good at that.
You are?
Yeah. I go to bed at 10 every night.
Okay. Do you feel better?
Yeah, I sleep like a little baby.
Yes, you do. Yeah. I can vouch for that.
Yeah, because you always
all of a sudden I was reading you, and we were in DC, and I was reading you. I was so excited about this idea of amino acids and how, whatever, it was the wartime diet. And I look over and you're asleep.
Because it's the most, but she goes, I have a fascinating study I want to read you. It's like 12 o'clock at night because you are the Energizer Bunny. It's weird how much energy you have,
A lot of caffeine, actually.
And you read me the world's most boring study, which is what you like to read for fun, which is also weird.
Also, you're a hater, but yes, it's true. And If you get outside in the morning and you get sunlight in your eyes, no glasses, no contacts, just get out there, you're anchoring. We work in a 24-hour circadian rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
We're mammals. That's what we do. If you anchor your morning, it sets up your night. So you are releasing melatonin, which helps with the sleep drive. It really sets you up for success because brain function can be improved with proper sleep, because we do not think about it. When you have sleep deprivation, you are more likely to make mistakes. Not to mention your muscle protein synthesis, which is a big fancy word for, it's kind of a proxy for muscle health, is suppressed. We don't want that.
No. So what does it look like when you get up in the morning?
I have 2 kids.
It's chaos.
That's enough. Yeah.
But theoretically, you get up and you walk your little
Kids outside. We go right outside.
Immediately outside.
Yes, because it's important for them.
Okay.
Well, it's not entirely true.
Do you take your coffee with you?
I was just about to say that's not entirely true.
Okay. You get up, you make a coffee, you go outside.
With the kids.
With the kids.
Then we hang out.
Do you ever just pull up TikTok or Instagram and scroll immediately in bed? Never?
No. Wow. No.
Okay, we need to be like, I need a bracelet that says, what would Gabrielle Lyon do? And do the opposite of what would Cody do in the morning?
It would be create purposeful friction. To me, that's all distraction.
Yeah.
And the more clear we are about the things that are important, the less we are going to make bad choices.
What do you mean by create purposeful friction? What does that look like?
Again, human beings, we're so predictable. And in order to be able to mitigate those highs and lows, which, early on, maybe in your entrepreneurial career, you probably allowed yourself to get really hyped up. Is that true?
Yeah.
And following that hyped experience, did you fall equally as low?
Sure. Yeah.
But you did it probably for, a handful of years. But at that peak of you amping yourself up, doing push-ups, listening to loud music before you got on stage or before you closed a big deal, most entrepreneurs will tell me that they feel kind of depressed the next day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they are chasing these highs and these lows. At the peak and the trough, meaning at the peak as high as you go and as low as you go, those are both vulnerabilities. Vulnerabilities as a doctor who cares for these people from health perspectives. That is the moment where you go off your diet plan. You just feel like you need more sugar, or they buy a car or they find a girlfriend, whatever it is, whatever their vice is, they'll go towards that. Similarly, when they are low, they are much less likely to make good physical choices. They are not going to, after a big event, go exercise. But if they were to do those things, then we don't have to spend 4 months trying to get you back on track. But it's predictable. So how do we build up our kind of vulnerability body armor? We don't do it at the big event. Mm-hmm. We do it before. So I'm going to give you 3 things that you can do. Number 1, you create purposeful restriction, meaning I love caffeine, I love loud music, and then I'll go work out. But all of that helps with dopamine release. So it fuels to that drive of wanting more. I flip a coin. Heads, I get it. Tails, I don't.
Interesting.
Annoying.
Yeah, very annoying.
But can you imagine after the 5th time of doing that, you're way less annoyed. And you can do it in any area of your life of something that you desire. For example, Starbucks. Flip a coin. Heads, you get it. Tails, you don't. And I encourage people to try this because we are of the culture to just get. But it doesn't help us when we need to mitigate those highs and lows.
That's great. So you kind of take the offers off the table. It's like, it's not up to you. It's up to this coin flip.
That's right.
And then I just keep my promise to myself. I like that. You talk a lot about sleep. I think this is super important. I was reading a article the other day that we have a sleep epidemic in tandem with what you talk about often, which is a health epidemic. Like people are sleeping less, their sleep quality is worse than ever. If somebody's listening to this right now and saying, I literally cannot sleep, I'm suffering from it, what else do you do? What do you tell somebody to do who's suffering from sleep?
Yeah, a lot of people are not sleeping well. And to be frank, I don't actually love sleeping, but you have to do it. Here's a handful of things. So number 1 is wake up at the same time and go to bed at the same time. Limit overhead lights and a lot of stimulation. Number 2, it's not great to have these huge meals before bed, but one of the things that we've seen in our clinical practice is people get hypoglycemic before are actually in the middle of the night. So about 4 hours after people fall asleep, we see that they oftentimes get reactive hypoglycemia, which is just a big word for low blood sugar, and it wakes them up. So having a mixed meal, maybe a handful of carbohydrates and a handful of protein, you don't need to overcomplicate it. A handful of both could be yogurt and some fruit. And then you go to bed, you're much less likely to wake up with this reactive hypoglycemia.
Is that what most often happens with people who are sleeping? It's they wake up in the middle of the night, not that they have a hard time falling asleep?
They do.
Interesting.
And they could wake up from sleep apnea. Mm-hmm. If you have bigger than a 17.5-inch neck, you probably have sleep apnea.
No.
You do not. Everyone's checking their neck.
Okay.
If your partner snores, they probably have sleep apnea.
Yeah, I think Chris has sleep apnea.
Well, yeah, of course. Every team guy I've ever met has sleep apnea.
Yeah.
But, they kind of don't like when they go to bed wearing the mask and the earplugs and the eye mask, they look like they're ready for takeoff.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like instant birth control. But still, it's really important because the data shows. So when I was a fellow, so I did my fellowship in geriatrics and nutritional sciences at WashU. And one of the risk factors for Alzheimer's was very poor sleep over time and sleep apnea.
Interesting. So what do you do if you have sleep apnea?
You get tested and you get treated. And
that is not just mouth tape.
No. Oftentimes people need to lose weight. Some people, it can be positional. And some people just have the kind of sleep apnea that requires an intervention. And there's nothing wrong with it, but you have to get tested. And you can do at-home sleep tests. It's not a big deal. It's super easy.
Some of the biggest challenges in business don't come at the starting line. They come when you're ready to grow. Hiring an operator, expanding to a second location, upgrading your equipment. And yeah, those moments make for great stories later, but when you're in the thick of it, they're brutal. That's why SoFi built the Small Business Loan Marketplace to help owners like you scale without the stress. The SoFi Small Business Loan Marketplace is your one-stop shop to search and compare real financing options from trusted providers so you can scale faster. And there's no hit to your credit score for searching for financing. You could even get funds as soon as the same day as you're approved. The next generation of business owners aren't growing by draining their savings or juggling credit cards. They're growing smarter with financing that fits their business. If you're ready to grow, head to SoFi.com/Codie and see what's possible. And thanks to SoFi for sponsoring this episode. I want to ask you a bunch of rapid fire questions, actually, that I've been wanting to ask you for a while. So this is for me mostly.
Yes, I wear deodorant.
Oh, you do?
I'm so sorry.
Is it organic though?
Nope. Yeah, it is.
It is, right?
Yeah,
is that true?
Sometimes it doubles as hand sanitizer, but yeah.
Oh, my, actually, I know this about you. You've given this. Oh, share this hack. This is such a good hack.
Okay.
I was smelly one day.
Kids, don't try this at home. But if you have an organic hand sanitizer that is mostly alcohol, it also doubles as deodorant.
Yeah, which
now,
is
not
mouthwash,
but definitely deodorant because I've tried it.
Yeah, and you gave it to me.
Yeah,
and I didn't. I thought it was actual deodorant. I used it for like a week straight because you didn't tell me. That's I trust you too much. Okay, so you do use deodorant, but you don't use non-organic ones because there is some data that shows that it's linked to cancer.
Well, there are a lot of environmental exposures, and I want to be very careful. There is the information overload. Everything is toxic. So there's kind of these two camps that everything is toxic. You have to eat organic. And then the other group that is organic's a waste of money. Don't worry about all this stuff. It's okay to have dyes. And I think the truth is often somewhere in the middle. But what we do know is that a lot of the stuff that we are using, it does contain a lot of chemicals. And this is true. It is probably the amount that we are using over a lifetime is probably not what we are using, say, a month at a time. For me and our household, we try to do as natural as possible.
Yeah, so you're not going to be sponsored by
Celsius. I'm waiting. But again, so Celsius,
say the big deodorant companies.
So Celsius artificial sweeteners is another big, for example, hot topic. I don't think the data is very strong that most artificial sweeteners are negative to the brain or the human body.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So you actually, you do drink as much caffeine as a 300-pound bodybuilder per day. So maybe the other question is, I saw a video the other day that I was like, whoa, this is a title. And it was, is caffeine killing us?
No.
No.
No. Some people do have a genetic SNP that they are more susceptible to the negative side effects of caffeine, but you will know if you are that person. I mean, you can always, of course, test for it. Happy to come to our clinic. We'll test you for it. But the reality is caffeine in a moderate dose is not going to be detrimental.
Yeah. What about, is caffeine bad for women when we're trying to get pregnant? I read another one saying coffee's bad for pregnant women. So you just want to steal all my joy.
I'm sorry. When I was pregnant, I did not go over 200 milligrams of caffeine.
What about before you were pregnant, like trying to get pregnant?
I'm not pregnant yet. Sign me up.
Yeah. Interesting. God, there's so many things. Okay, how about this one? Are Lululemon's making us infertile? Are Lululemon leggings making us infertile?
If I were to put and rank the hierarchy of what is causing infertility, and let's say what is the number one cause of female infertility? For young women, it's polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is also known as PCOS. There are two types of PCOS. One comes from the brain and the other is metabolic. The other being metabolic, guess where the biggest lever that we can pull for improving our chances of fertility if you are someone who has PCOS is?
Muscle. I'm just kidding,
exercise.
Yes. Really?
And diet.
Wait, so you were saying if you have PCOS right now, you should be lifting and following a strength regime?
Yes.
I have never heard a doctor say that before.
And I interviewed on my podcast one of the world-leading experts in PCOS. Her name is Dr. Melanie Cree. She is an MD PhD. And she did, if there are 10 studies on Ozempic or GLP-1s and fertility, she's done 2 of them. And I asked her, she was, we were in a podcast, and I said, okay, so what % body fat is it that allows someone to get pregnant, or the ones that are going to really suffer on an ongoing basis? And she looked at me and she's like, Gabrielle, it has nothing to do with body fat percentage. It has everything to do with intermuscular adipose tissue. To break that down, it's how much fat is actually stored in your muscle. And that comes from insulin resistance, which in part of that is being sedentary. I mean, there are genetic risks for PCOS, but what we do know is that exercise and a good diet will often, I'm being very careful about how I'm saying this, will improve people's likelihood of conceiving.
Why is it that doctors by and large don't tell us things like that?
It's a lot to ask for someone to be trained at an expert level in multiple domains. In order to become a physician, you're already going through 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of medical school, then training, and then a fellowship. To also ask that person to be an expert at nutrition is a lot.
How many studies do you have to read to go, probably better that you work out?
Not that many. Not that many.
So is that really an excuse for doctors to not use it? Or is it like a liability if they say it? I don't get it.
No, but I will say, and I'm just speaking from my own perspective, I think for physicians, because there is so much noise out there, I don't think that they like to step into that noisy realm. And what do I mean by this? I'll give you an example. So in order to be a board certified physician, you still have to study. It doesn't just go away once you graduate and start practicing. And many doctors would say, don't eat red meat and reduce your dietary cholesterol. But they were misinformed because dietary cholesterol recommendations were taken out of the dietary guidelines in 2015. Therefore, the information of don't eat eggs or don't eat red meat because it's bad for your cholesterol is not even part of the guidelines right now.
Wow. What changed?
I think that the scientists determined that it wasn't relevant, that dietary cholesterol had very little impact on blood level cholesterol.
Dude, I feel like doctors need a beeper or something. Can they give them the updates? Is there some nationwide system where when new data comes out, they say, well, all doctors should know this, or there's not really a way?
That's a really good point. There is, but it's per specialty. And again, nutrition is challenging because it's something that everybody does. Eat. Becomes very difficult to get through the noise.
Yeah. The tough part is there's the other side of the coin too, right? Which is we have all these people online giving all of this advice who are definitely not a doctor, never read a study before or read one on the side, don't really understand how to analyze peer-reviewed studies, and are also sharing a lot of information like if you eat seed oils, you about to die. And so it can kind of become—
Which we know that that's not true.
That's so controversial too, because I feel like if we had let's say I had Paul Saladino here, you here, Huberman here, and Alex Clark, there'd be a war.
But here's what I would say. I would say, let's call in the people that have done these studies and let's talk to them. So for example, Dr. Kevin Mackey, he was and he still might be the president of the Lipid Association. This guy's a career scientist. And I was like, Kevin, what's the deal? And he said, the evidence doesn't support that seed oils are causing the derangement that people are saying.
What about when they say that's because the studies haven't been around long enough, or the, big pharma and the food industry are the ones that pay for it? So
people will always look to something.
But that's not what you're seeing in the data. You're saying these studies actually seem reasonable. We have enough data. We're analyzing it in real time.
And the good studies will also talk about the limitations. And we also know that whole foods are a great choice. And if we think about that, then we can become less hyper-focused on these little things. So the issue isn't food dyes. The issue isn't seed oils. The bigger issue is, how do we feed for human health? All these other things are distractions.
Then why, when I go to Europe, can I eat all the bread and all the food and I lose weight?
You're probably walking more than 10,000 steps.
Well, it's probably about 2,000 here, about 12,000 there.
And also you're probably eating from whole food sources. Maybe you're getting outside more. But the reality is, it's very difficult to hyper focus on one thing. It would be like for the entrepreneur, the one problem in your business is just because of this. You have a really rude front desk person. And you're like, no, you guys are not taking care of your taxes. You don't have good lead gen. There's I could find 100 other reasons, but the foundation is your business is not set up well. The same is for nutrition.
Yeah. Okay. What about, I heard a study the other day that said loneliness causes dementia.
We are, and I actually saw that study, so we are social creatures. And I don't know if it's loneliness. I mean, I think that that's probably subjective and they probably use survey data, but we do know that not being in relationships and having relationships around you is a risk factor for depression and anxiety and dementia.
And so what's the solve for that?
Hang out more.
I like that.
But not necessarily. It's interesting. So when I say hang out more, and I haven't seen this data, but we're not talking about social media hangout, having real relationships with real people that you can count on. Because AI is coming in and take over. And people are creating relationships with AI bots. And it is very disruptive for the human connection.
What does the data tell us about AI relationships or parasocial relationships versus in-person relationships? Like, does one supplement the other? If I'm talking to my AI all day, if I'm on Instagram all day, and I feel like I'm engaging with people, does that actually feel like engagement in my body?
It's not the same, but there is data to suggest that you do have that same feeling, but it is it is not the same. And I think we're also going to start to see more of that data as well.
So like for our health factor, it doesn't make me healthier and less lonely to engage online, but it does make me healthier to engage in person.
Yes. And I can't say for sure. Again, I have to be very clear about, doctors and scientists, we have to be very careful about what we're saying. For some people, could it be better? Yes, but I think that it will always be better if you are engaging in person, because we have nonverbal cues.
Yeah.
And we are somewhat of a connected nervous system. Our eyes connect. I mean, this is how we communicate. It's not just verbal communication. You cannot do that with a robot.
Yeah. Well, and then obviously, aren't there a lot of studies out there about physical touch too,
Yes.
and how important that is?
Yes.
And so if we're completely replacing physical touch, I imagine that can't be great. I mean, I saw it with my grandparents, for instance. One side of the family had my grandma super engaged. Like, we stayed in touch with her. She still had relationships. She still went out in the world during COVID. The other side, they were super quarantined. Nobody was around them. They never left their house. They were really antisocial, sort of like mandated. And one side, I mean, it was wild. My grandma is older. She's like asking me about ChatGPT and AI now. She's so with it. She's 100 years old. The other two, I mean, we lost them the last 5 years. Complete dementia, like lack of idea about where they are, not able to really use their own faculties at all anymore. And of course, this is all, qualitative, not quantitative. But it was hard actually watching it and seeing them completely decline almost the second that they stopped having interaction. And I personally was like, I'd rather die from COVID than like slowly decline in dementia because I'm by myself.
Yeah, it's really tough. And there are other factors that we know. So for example, physical touch releases oxytocin. And oxytocin is what we think of as that bonding hormone. If you are sitting in a chair and have the massager chair, you don't release the same amount of oxytocin. And there are biological and physiological differences when you are engaging with human connection.
So if they're not getting any of that, they're not having oxytocin release. And what does oxytocin release do? Is that good for your brain, essentially?
It is good for your brain. It's good for your mood.
Yeah.
It's, think about it. Women release oxytocin when they have a baby, when they have sex, or when they orgasm.
Good clarifier.
You can also take oxytocin intranasally, which you can.
Wait, what?
Yeah, for mood, for milk letdown. Men and women can take it.
Like you snuff oxytocin up your nose with like a sprayer?
Yeah. Some people take allergy spray.
I love that you go, spray. Totally. Aren't you doing it too, Cody?
Yeah, I've got some in my purse, as a matter of fact. But the reality is what we are talking about is what are we going to do with the society that we live in now? How do we reorient ourselves to just a healthy lifestyle, which again starts with muscle, training, protein. It's not that complicated, but also good relationships, especially in the wake of this increase in AI online community. And again, if people want to perform at their best, then the ways to do that, I think, are very clear.
What do the studies tell us about being negative and being smarter or having a healthier brain? Like if you have negative thought patterns, are you more likely to shrink your brain size? Are you more likely to have a stronger brain? Does it matter if I'm negative or positive?
Well, I can't say that I have looked at those studies, but here's what I will tell you about the brain. That from a metabolic perspective, because this all ties in, the more overweight you are, the wider your waistline, the lower the brain volume. That's not good.
Fatter you are, dumber you are?
You heard it here, folks.
Okay, just make sure I'm tracking.
The other thing is that when you are training and when you are moving and doing cardiovascular activity, doing resistance training, you will have less atrophy. Your brain will be more robust in terms of preventing shrinkage. And this is what we see as women go through perimenopause, menopause. You do not want to be dealing with type 3 diabetes of the brain. As far as negative and positive, we know that sleep can help with brain function. That's the time the brain cleans itself. All very important. But again, a depressed brain, would someone say that that is a more unhealthy brain? I would say probably.
And is this something that we are seeing accelerate in our country? Like it seems like these days, more often than not, when I talk to my friends' grandparents, they have some version of dementia or Alzheimer's.
Yes.
So this is accelerating.
Mm-hmm.
And why do you think that is? Is this purely because of obesity and lack of muscle?
I think that it's not purely, but I think that that is the main driver. Because think about all the activities that ride with healthy muscle. You're out, you're moving more, you're motivated. Is it the muscle itself? From a metabolic perspective, yes. Type 3 diabetes of the brain is insulin resistance of the brain. What your body does, your brain also does.
Like, do doctors recommend muscle, strength training?
Good doctors do.
Good doctors do.
Yeah.
But most of them today would recommend basically pills and crossword puzzles, right?
I think that we are starting to see a shift. For the last 50 so years, we've been focused on obesity as if this is the sole problem. And I would argue that obesity is just one problem. Alzheimer's, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, obesity, that these are all symptoms of unhealthy skeletal muscle. And if you are worried about all of these other things, including your performance at work, then you have to focus on the things that you actually have agency for, which is not actually weight loss. I cannot tell my body to lose 2 pounds, but I can tell my body, okay, you're going to go squat 120 pounds. So there are things that we have the option to control, and then the things that we don't.
By the way, I have a live event. I only do one a year. It's huge. How big? Really big. In Austin, Texas, just for people who want to make more money, buy businesses, build businesses. It's called Main Street over Wall Street. So if you liked this episode, you're probably going to want to be there. There's only a couple hundred spots left. So click below. I want to shake your hand in person in Austin, Texas, or go to msows.com. MSOWS. We'll see you there. We've been blown away by how fast this show is growing. Like, getting to hang out with you every single week is so cool. But most of the people who tune in every week still haven't subscribed, which is crazy. It is the simplest way, though, to help us keep scaling. So I can't thank you enough for your support. Like, we would be nowhere without you guys. And I just want to jump back into my conversation, but I also want you to do it subscribed. Oh, and share it with a friend if you like this episode. I think it's better when you profit together, you know?
I think we should try some hot takes on health. What's the dumbest diet trend you've seen people fall for?
There are two. Do I have to have been alive for them?
No.
But there was the lucky diet. People smoke to lose weight.
Wow, that's wild.
I just can't imagine how bad you would feel and how bad you would smell.
Very smelly.
I mean,
Okay,
they were
let's
definitely
subscribe.
single.
They
Yeah.
were totally single.
So the lucky diet, there was also the amphetamine diet, the fen diet. Yeah, I don't think that was probably a good one. Cabbage soup diet.
Is that a real thing right now?
That is, and also the wine and egg diet.
Sounds great.
And this was 3 each meal. So for 3 meals, a glass of wine and 2 eggs.
Get out of town.
Disgusting. I mean, your breath is going to be terrible.
There's a lot of doubt. Oh, God, yeah. Could you imagine hanging out with that chick at a cocktail party? No, thanks. What about intermittent fasting? Is that a breakthrough, or is that just starving with better branding?
I love that. Intermittent fasting, if we were to quantify that, that's eating in an 8 to 9 hour window. We recommend that to our patients all the time. I do not recommend 24-hour fasts or longer because, again, it's difficult to hold on to muscle as it is. So if you reorient yourself to muscle, then fasting over 24 hours is, that's like the no-go zone. The crazy hot matrix, it's the no-go zone.
Right, it's like Tiffany plus a hairdresser.
Exactly. No-go zone. But 8 to 9 hour feeding window can be great because the biology doesn't like chaos. And as we are thinking about how do we get better and more healthy so that we can produce more or just show up more fully, then less chaos is better. If you are going to intermittent fast, great. But stick to those feeding windows. If it's 8 to 9 hours, then stick to that.
So for a woman listening who's busy, got a lot going on, and has been told all these different things, she now knows she needs to strength train, probably. What is she eating? And what is she not doing? Like, what can we tell ourselves? Like, you can just take that off the list. Don't even worry about that right now.
Okay. Should we start with what she's not doing?
Yeah.
If she is very busy and not training, then she should not commit carbicide. And what is this? This is the body. So the average American is eating around 300 grams or so of carbs a day. The recommendation is 130 grams. Anything above that, you have to earn through exercise. So what she's not doing, if I could say, listen, lady, if you are not training and you are sedentary, do not eat a high carbohydrate diet, or you are essentially giving yourself an oral glucose tolerance test 3 times a day. We don't want that. Because as we have these metabolic dysfunctions, she then is at a greater risk for Alzheimer's and all these other diseases.
So that means no bread, less rice, less potatoes?
Unless you're going to train.
Okay.
But this is easy. Reduce your processed carbs.
Okay.
What she is doing is she's having around 100 grams of protein a day. Make it simple. 50 grams in that first meal, 50 grams in that last meal.
So that's like...
that's the minimum. She can do that.
Okay. Which would be like a shake and some eggs.
Great. Or a shake and a half.
Okay. Or a shake.
Or if she likes recipes, I have about 60 of them.
I like that. Where would we go to get the recipes?
This playbook.
Where let's be more specific.
Oh, yeah,
what
okay,
playbook
yeah.
and like...
Well, you can come over to my house, come under the tree. Just kidding. They can get it on Amazon. It's the Forever Strong Playbook. It's the book that I wish I had. It has how to train, exactly what to do, exactly how to eat, exactly how to think about all these concepts and how to recover, which no one does, in a very concise manual.
Yeah. So you don't have to read because the Forever Strong book is incredible.
It's dense. You'll fall asleep. You fell asleep.
No, I read it and I
You
listened
kind
to it on audiobook.
You
Okay.
kind of fell asleep.
No,
Yeah.
I did not fall asleep. But if I could just get the playbook of only what I'm supposed to do, I'm on it.
Yeah.
Like, so, okay, we'll include the link below and then Forever Strong Playbook anywhere you go and buy it.
Here's my question.
Huh.
You see entrepreneurs all the time and business owners.
Uh-huh.
What is the disconnect between actually taking the action to get healthy? They will never outpace their biology, ever. Why, if you know this is going to make you a better business person, and if we think that entrepreneurs are like these modern day warriors, because listen, they can suffer more than anyone else that I've ever seen. So take out the military. Like, look, you guys are in your own whole other category. But entrepreneurs can suffer more pain, more loss, are willing to take risks.
Yeah.
Yet you ask them to do 100 push-ups and they're like, I'm out.
I don't know. There's something wrong with our brains because I'm the same way. It's so. I think maybe it might be the difference between like acute and what is that called? Like continuous stress.
Chronic, yeah.
Chronic. Like we do really well, I think, with chronic stress and like chronic. We're like a bunch of marathoners. We're just over here running continuously in our business. But when you give us acute stress, which would be like acute physical stress, so like I got to go do burpees or work out with Gabrielle. It's just like for some reason it seems like it bothers a lot of entrepreneurs. So I think there's that. One, we're marathoners. We're not sprinters in many ways. And then I think the next thing is just habit stacking. We've habit stacked for so long our number one priority as being business related or money related that, we just have to rewire our system to say, no, this actually makes me money here. But it's very hard to see the direct line correlation between my workout and my balance sheet. That is somehow we just lose all causation between the two.
But what about getting that right meal in?
Yeah.
Because a lot of entrepreneurs, you call them right after lunch, 90 minutes later, they're napping under their desk.
Yeah.
But if you can just get that one meal right, you'll feel better by the next meal.
Yeah, it's totally rational.
It is.
Well, I think the other thing too is a lot of entrepreneurs, when you think about it, you have so much misery during the day. I think you have a great case in your head. Humans are incredible self-rationalizers, right? So I'm like, I worked so hard today. I worked hard all day today. I took all the issue. I've also got decision fatigue by the end of the day because I'm decision. At the end of the day, where's my glass of wine? I deserve it.
You deserve it.
And so we have a negative narrative.
We have
in
a
our
name
head,
for that. We have
right?
a name for that.
What is the name?
That's called the midlife body starter kit right there. The I deserve it, the midlife body starter kit. I guarantee you another 40 pounds.
That is actually very true.
I mean,
yeah.
but yeah, I think that if we can, I believe that we can be a healthier, stronger, more robust society. Just like you think we can all be business owners.
Yeah.
So if we can connect the two, then you have a culture that is unstoppable. And that I think is what we're trying to get to.
Yeah. I mean, I think the other thing that's like like when I get in a flow and I'm going for a few weeks, I'm killing. Like my step count high. I'm in the gym. I got the trainer.
You've got the weight vest on.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to our weight vest calls and talks? Like that just completely fell off the map.
Well, you kept doing it. I did not. And, I think I have a very high tolerance for doing the business stuff, but I got a habit stack in order to do the physical thing. And so that's why I like listening to you because it's just it's a reminder. You're like the female David Goggins. You're like, listen, bitch, get moving.
No one is going to run that long. I run like 4 feet and I'm done. That's it.
Yeah, well, we do call you what do we call you? Ant Woman and the Tiny Tornado because half these videos of you, which I should put up here, that last one you sent me, you're throwing like it's a boulder over your shoulder, wasn't it? She just goes, but I think sometimes like you can't be what you can't see. So when I see a mom like you who has 2 kids, who has a successful business, who is a doctor and still prioritizes health, it's like, what excuse do I got?
And it doesn't mean it's easy and it doesn't mean it's convenient.
No.
But I know that I am never going to be able to talk myself into it. But as long as I don't talk myself out of it, and I just have a commitment in place, then I don't have to rely on anything else. If we give them the 3 steps of, here, this is how much protein you're going to get. You're committed to it. This is what you're going to do for training. It's 3 days a week. You got this. We're going to put a standing treadmill desk because it's not just about building a financial legacy machine. There's this saying that people will have 1 million problems until they have 1 health problem.
And it really does seem like We're getting cancer more than we ever have before. You know, I just saw today a woman that I really respect, whose name is Brittany Turner. She just announced that she has cancer. She's like a badass. Who,
What kind of cancer?
It's a good question. I don't know. I saw it on the Instagrams, and super healthy from the outside looking. And so, you know, and then I have another girlfriend whose name is Bridget, who's been battling cancer for a year.
That's really sad.
And she's super young, you know, maybe 35, 38, something like that.
Yeah. And I also want to say that if someone is really young and they get cancer, typically there's a genetic cause. And then also cancer is not anybody's fault. And if you see a good physician, and there's a lot of discussion whether people should do this or not, but we do this in our clinic, and we do full body Prenovo or full body MRI scans. And also we've done it for you. We do blood tests for cancers,
really helpful.
just screening. At the very least, it's peace of mind. And so we do know that there are certain behaviors that increase people's risks of various cancers. Obesity is one of them. I'm pretty sure alcohol is a carcinogen. This is going to be really controversial, but a ton of sun exposure.
I thought that was a new thing. We don't do sunscreen anymore.
No, we do.
I was just telling my mom today.
Mom, yes, we do sunscreen. Or at least we do sun protection clothing.
Okay.
You know,
I'm into the clothing. I thought there was new things about how all the sunscreen has all the chemicals in it.
So pick one that is a mineral-based sunscreen.
Okay,
or
fine.
wear clothes.
All right.
But the sun is going to, at some point, cause DNA damage. And, you know, it's a risk factor for skin cancer.
Yeah, I was there more for like the aesthetic stuff. I don't want the wrinkles.
Yes. Well, me neither. But again, how do we think about preparing for the inevitable, which sucks, but aging is going to happen to everybody. It's inevitable. And these things are responsibilities.
How do we get your jawline? Are you
You got
bored
to talk
with
to my
that?
parents. You got to talk to my parents.
Son of a gun.
I literally
so I
had
can't
nothing to do with
chomp
this.
that. If you have
You know
those
what?
things,
If you chew enough gum and drink enough caffeine, come talk to me in a year.
I'll be
see.
Gabrielle Lyon.
There you go.
The kids call that snatched jawline these days. You know that? That's what
No.
you have. Well,
That's good.
must be nice. I don't have that. Okay, so I want to talk about alcohol really quick. How bad is alcohol for us, really?
It's not good.
Like get rid of it. Don't drink it. No good.
I'm going to give you my personal opinion. Correct. I do not think alcohol. I think it is a toxin, period. And when we were examining people and we were saying, okay, so what is this person's risk factor for some kind of cognitive impairment? Alcohol was on the list. And people will say, well, a little bit of alcohol is okay. Okay, maybe, but it's kind of like, are you wanting to rationalize the fact that you are using it?
Yes.
Is it good? No, I personally don't think it is. Could you probably find some studies where X ounces a day is okay for you? Okay, fine. But if you want to pick a vice, just pick a different one.
What vice do you supplement it with at the end of the day?
Push-ups. I don't know.
Oh God, you're such a psychopath.
Or how about this? If you want to have some carbohydrates, fine. Have your carbohydrates, then go for your walk.
Okay.
So leverage your body to balance out your choice.
Okay, I like that. That seems reasonable. Okay, let's end on, if you want to be the guaranteed unhealthiest person you can be, what do you do? Inverse thinking.
Perfect. Do not exercise. Do not move. Walk less than 3,000 steps. Number 2, absolutely, without a doubt, high calorie, high carb, processed food diet. And number 3, don't have any friends.
All right.
Guaranteed my recipe for misery.
And get hammered every night.
Yeah, perfect.
Now we're going to be the number one worst. Okay. I think the only thing that I want to end with is you have this new book coming out. You made it basically for me and people like me who won't read the whole book. What do we need to know about this book? Who is this book for? Why should we pick it up right now?
If you have a body, this book is for you. Period. It is how to think, how to move, how to eat, how to recover. It will tell you everything, and it is evidence-based. It is not a workbook, but it's a playbook. So you know how they've got like the playbook for life? This is the book that I wish that I had had.
So good. Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, thank you for being here. Thank you for being my bud. Thank you for bullying me.
No problem.
You will bully me into
what
lifting
I do best.
heavy things, having friends.
I mean, it sucks, but
doing what I
someone's gotta
say
do
I'm
it.
going to do. It's so lame. Okay, bye.
This episode is super, super important. How to pick big problems. If you aren't solving big problems, you won't make big money. When you find a problem, that's where the money is. That's not a mindset, by the way, it's a skill set. Big, hairy, solvable. This is where most scaling problems and opportunities live. This is the exact moment where most people run, and thus you get to lean in. Important. This is the Big Deal podcast, and I'm Codie Sanchez. Welcome back. Today we're talking to you builders about how to make more money. The truth that we have today is if you aren't solving big problems, you won't make big money. And I wish I had heard this sooner, that if you want to make more, the easiest way is to find the hardest game and to play it. You know, the truth of the matter is in business, you're always going to have problems. If your business doesn't have problems, it's probably dead. So I want to teach you a framework I use that helps me find the right problems that will make you lots of money. And this is why what I'm talking to you about is so critical today. If your business picks the wrong problems to focus on, you will lose all your money and not make any more of it. If your team picks the wrong problems, you're dead. And if you as an employee pick the wrong problems, you'll never make more money. So this episode is super, super important. How to pick big problems. Oftentimes we run away from big problems, right? We want to beat our head against the wall when you come up to them. But I think this story started to reframe it totally for me. So a few months ago, Mark Andreessen was asked why Elon Musk is able to build rockets, electric cars, brain chips, tunnels so effectively. And whether you like his politics or not, the answer was so good. Mark said simply, what Elon does is he shows up every week at each one of his companies. He identifies the biggest problem that the company's having that week. He fixes it, then he finds a new problem, and he does that every week for 52 weeks in a row. It's a relentless problem loop. Simple in theory and brutal in practice. It requires proximity, so a willingness to actually live inside or right next to friction. And most people don't operate that way. Most companies definitely don't. Problems are treated like biohazards. Stay away. Okay, so rule number one, we are going to reframe. I no longer want to hear you say in your business problems. Instead, we're going to say, there's a growth opportunity. Here's the truth of the matter. When you find a problem, that's where the money is. The second you find a problem, you should be like, oh, wait a second. This was a bottleneck in the way of the flow of money funneling to me. It sounds woo-woo, except it's real. We're going to process them, redirect them, and then we're going to actually welcome them. This is different than what the rest of corporate America does because we've become professionals at problem avoidance. But at SpaceX, they do the opposite. They send a 400 square foot skyscraper into the sky, knowing full well it will probably explode spectacularly, publicly. But they want to know exactly what breaks, when, and why, because every failure will help incapacitate dozens of future problems. So Andreessen describes Musk's idea as something like this, like incredible devotion from a leader to fully, deeply understand what the company does and being the lead problem solver in the organization. And that last part really matters, the lead problem solver, because it isn't really glamorous. I mean, if you understand this, you know the uncomfortable truths is that as a founder, you're going to do the thing that no one else wants to touch. That's it. But that's where all the leverage is. What you earn usually reflects what you solve. And that's why like prioritization, which sounds kind of fluffy, is actually super, super important. If you let low-level problems become what you do, you get low-level pay. You have to be able to outsource the low-level problems, otherwise you'll never be able to build rockets. Now, you don't need to like Elon to understand this, I don't think. You don't need to agree with him. You don't need to launch rockets either. In a $3 million HVAC business or a 20-year-old manufacturing brand, one constraint, one fixable pricing model, one key hire, one broken ops process can change the trajectory of the entire company. What you probably do need to do is move toward the problem that's going to move the needle. I want you to think about it like this. On the left-hand side of the graph, up and down, you have your earnings size, how much money you can make. On the right-hand side of the graph, you have the problem size. I want you to realize that they're directly correlated. The bigger the earnings potential, the bigger the problem. The smaller the earnings potential, the smaller the problem, and vice versa. So we are going to actually figure out how to prioritize problems using what I call the problem prioritization matrix. It's a mouthful, but this is what I use. So Brad Jacobs has built multiple billion-dollar companies in logistics and just about everywhere. He wrote a book called How to Make a Few $billion, which I thought was cute. But what I love is he talks about this in a very specific Brad-only way. So Brad says, essentially, think of M&A, so mergers and acquisitions, something we talk a lot about, is having four quadrants. This is the same for any business and any problem. They're defined by size and risk. So first, you can see on the graph, if you go to YouTube, you have big, low risk deals are the ones everybody wants, right? You can make a lot of money, but not a lot of risk. But they don't actually exist. The second is small, low risk deals. They exist, but you can't make much money from them because of their size. Then you have small, hairy deals. That's the worst quadrant. That's like they're not going to make you much money and they have a ton of problems. The reward is super limited. The odds are stacked against you. So why bother? The bingo, what you are looking for in your business, is the big, hairy deal. If you can find a big, hairy deal with solvable problems, that's where the real money is. And Jacobs didn't win by being perfect. He won by getting really good at solving the right problems. So he's like, I'm not surprised when things don't go perfectly. That's kind of the nature of this thing we're doing. That's not a mindset, by the way. It's a skill set. Big, hairy, solvable. This is where most scaling problems and opportunities live. Now, you don't want it to be fatal, not unsolvable. We're not looking for like cancer solving, but you hit growth and suddenly your cash conversion cycle turns sour. Your ops leader is underwater. Your CRM looks like it was built by a bunch of rabid raccoons. You've got customer demand, but no clean way to deliver. Revenue's up, morale's down. Your systems scream at you every time you find 5 new clients. You guys, those aren't problems. That's not failure. That's actually your growth unlock. Every time you find one of those, you should be silently thanking yourself, because Jacobs would argue, and so would I, that this is the exact moment where most people run, and thus you get to lean in. So if you want to win, you have to rearrange your brain to lean into those big, hairy problems and figure out how to cut off the hair and de-risk, he would say. That's the job. Not avoiding the hard problems, but identifying them and selecting the right ones to solve.
By the way, if you're building a business right now and you're stuck or you want to break out to the next level, maybe you're not where you want to be today. Believe me, I've been there many, many times. I want you to know I got you. We help thousands of business owners a year figure out how to scale to the next level. One of my favorite mentors said, every level you have, there's just a higher level and a higher devil. And so if you've been in business for a while and you're doing 6, 7, or 8 figures, there's probably one thing standing in the way of your next level. That's why we host growth and scale workshops 4 times a year throughout the year in Austin, in Miami, in San Diego, and you may be a fit to come to one of them. If it sounds interesting to you to get help on how to scale your business to the next level, you can reach out to my team at the link in the show notes. We believe in you builders, but we also believe that it's a lonely road and you can't do it by yourself.
So I like to take every single problem that I have and put it in that quadrant. I need to hire a new administrative assistant to answer email. Well, it's kind of like a small problem with a small reward. Okay, that's fine. I could spend a small amount of time on it. I need to find an entire new exec team because my exec team isn't functioning right now. Well, that's actually a big, hairy problem. But if I figure it out, holy crap. I spent 6 months looking for the president of this company, Contrarian Thinking. I spent $80,000 on the search just for the recruiter to find him. And the reason I was willing to spend all that time and all that money is because I knew when I found him, even if I paid a lot to find him, and then I had to pay him a lot, that one person would unlock my entire business. So I like to do this to myself. I'm like, every time I get a problem, I'm like, self, remember, it's funny, like how people get upset about finding problems in their business. That's what business is. It's constantly finding and solving problems and learning to enjoy the process. If the issue is real but solvable, keep going. I think most business owners waste years trying to avoid these moments, and the best ones move towards them. I have our teams use this matrix all the time. Print this out, put it up on the wall, have them categorize their own problems and only solve the big ones. I constantly am asking my team, why are you in here? Steve Jobs was actually really famous for this. He was famous for holding a meeting. A bunch of people would be in there. And then he would look at somebody, and if they weren't adding value and it didn't seem like they were relevant to the meeting, he would say, what are you doing in this meeting? Which seems kind of rude. But actually, what was he doing? He was freeing them up to leave if it wasn't relevant to them. He was saying, this isn't your problem set. So for instance, here's how I did it this week. I literally this week was working on some funnels that we have for one of our businesses. So most businesses have some sort of funnel that leads to a product. You get your original lead and you move it through the process until they finally buy. Well, a lot of times if you're talking to executives, they name all these different reasons why stuff is going on. But I start with this multi-step process. First, name your potential problems. Okay, so we listed out every single problem that marketing had. Then we picked the biggest one to solve. How? We wrote down how much money we could drive from each one, and we wrote down how much cost we could have from each one, and we wrote down all the potential solutions. So this is called the RICE formula. So this model helps organizations make better data-driven decisions by scoring based on 4 key factors: reach, impact, confidence, and effort. But I changed mine to revenue. How much money will this problem that I solve make me? Impact. How much cost impact will we have for doing this? Like, how much will it cost me? Confidence. How much confidence do we have or you have in your estimates? Like percentage or decimal reflecting certainty. So like if you're 80% confident, that's 0.8. And then effort. How much total work, personal months, weeks, or hours will this initiative require? So let's use an example. So a RICE score. Let's say here that you have a revenue opportunity of $1 million. You put $1 million up front minus the cost, $500,000. You put that all in parentheses times 0.8. I am 80% confident in both of these numbers, the revenue I can drive plus the cost. Then I divide all of that by 4 because I think it'll take me 4 weeks to do. That gives me a score. Now, every single thing that I'm going to do, I score this way. Why? Because your ability to choose the right problems will make you more money. Now, some companies lay this out with reach as opposed to revenue, but I really care about cash flow, as you guys know. Here's the truth. If you don't know what to do next, it helps to have a buddy to figure out what to do next. And oftentimes I think that buddy can be an equation. You can have a process, and process limits anxiety. Follow the process and you know that you're going to hit this right step at some point if you don't get up. In business, one of the loneliest things you can be, I think, is an owner of a business. A lot of people think that it's hard to be an employee. Having been both, I would say an employee is a lot easier. And sometimes you make more money because you're not spending in order to eventually one day have the potential ability to make money. We know that it's hard to be an owner, but it gets a lot less hard if you have a process and you have a principled way to do just about everything you do. That's why I use the RICE score. If I go, okay, Cody, when a problem comes into my head, I'm not stressed about it because I know a problem is hiding opportunity. I almost visually think about a problem like a curtain, where if I understand the problem, I pull back the curtain and behind that curtain is money. Now I just need to figure out how much money is hiding behind the curtain. So I use the RICE score so that I can make that curtain transparent. I'm like, all right, there's this amount of revenue, the cost, here's my certainty, my fix. I think we should go after this problem. This will also really help you if you have other team members or employees on your team. Why? Because everybody wants a to-do list like this. They want 452 things that they can do to check things off their list to feel good. But what they actually need to do is solve one problem. And if you get that one thing out of your way, you probably have a different business in front of you entirely. All right, let me know if you liked this episode this week, you guys. And if you're struggling with your one thing in business, we are here to help you. This is my entire life mission, and it's that you never stand alone in your business and you get to follow proven data and systems in order for you to grow. So if you want to talk to our team about coming to one of our scaling and growth workshops, if you want to talk about different resources and communities we have for builders, then you can hit the link in the description. We are here to help you as Owner Nation. All right, see you next week.
Hey, I have something special for you for being such a loyal listener because you're here with me all the time. I get asked by a bunch of you, how do I tell if I should buy a business or not? Should you buy a business or not? What price should you buy a business at? How do you structure your deal? I got you, fam. So I'm going to gift you our deal calculator. Every time I look at a deal, I grab the numbers, plug it in here, and see how much money I could make or lose if I did a good or bad deal. So this is my gift to you. And if you're serious about buying a business, we want to help you. You can talk to my team about if you're a fit for our business buying community or curriculum. No matter what, here's your free gift. And if you need a hand to hold, I got you too. Hey crew, this is so cool. The podcast is growing like crazy, and it's only actually because of one thing, you. I don't know if you know this, but the only way the Big Deal Pod grows is when you share it with somebody else. We don't do ads, we don't do pay for play, we don't go on other people's podcasts and talk about it. So if you think there was something helpful here, if we made you money, we made you think about your business or life differently, the most beautiful thing you can do for me is share it. And the most beautiful thing you can do for someone that you care about is to share it with them, help them grow alongside you. So please share the pod. That's how we grow. And also tag me on anything you share. I love resharing other builders across Instagram, Twitter, and all other platforms. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. You're super important to me. Do you actually have to leave your hometown to become successful? Can you make it where you were born? I started with this tweet quite a while ago, and it went something like this. Never be afraid to leave your hometown to grow. It's too easy to stay the same when the scene does. Your people love you as you are now, and they'll fear losing that you. Your hometown, it'll be there. But if you truly want to change, you need to go to a place that is changed. And I kind of believed that. But then I tried something else.
You did. Like right before we hopped on this recording, you tweeted, do you know anyone who is really successful, lives in their hometown, and has never left to work anywhere else? My favorite tweet was, Jesus couldn't even preach in Nazareth. Jesus was from Nazareth.
Fuck, that's good.
Yeah.
That's so good.
I was like, oh my gosh, that one's good. And then another person made a great comment. Yep, it helps to be a Silicon Valley local. I feel like the same thing probably about like New York City. And then another person, no, staying in your hometown will rust you as a ship that doesn't do what it's built for.
So let's narrow the scope because that's what a bunch of people commented. Let's define success as money and earnings. And let's be really specific. Top 1% earners, which is somewhere around $823,000 a year. Can you be a top 1% earner and stay in your hometown? And what are the examples of humans who have actually done that? I think having a really specific goal helps you figure out how to get a really specific answer. So we did a bunch of homework on this, right? And we found some fascinating research on the one key determinant that will decide for most young people if they're going to be successful or not. And it's fascinating. It's two words. It's called economic interconnectedness or economic connectedness. And basically what happened is there was a research study done on thousands of kids in neighborhoods that had the same socioeconomic demographics, aka like child A had kind of a same economic background as child B. One child was in Minneapolis, relatively poor, same sort of situation as this other group that was in another city that wasn't Minneapolis. So same low income children, two different cities. And what was really interesting is the kid who was in Minneapolis, which is an economically connected city, which means people from high incomes, people from low incomes hang out together. They have interactions together. That kid had a 33% higher income by the time that kid was 35 than the kid who came from the same economic family, but because the city wasn't economically interconnected, that kid earns 33% less over time. So what does that kind of mean wrapped with a bow on it? That being around rich people seems to help you become more rich. And I'm just using that one example of that kid from Minneapolis, but there's, thousands that were done in this study so that they found it statistically significant, aka it actually has a strong predictor for most children. And in fact, they said that is the strongest predictor of upward mobility found to date. Now, they don't say why, but it seems to me like if you're around other rich people, perhaps you can be what you can see and you cannot be what you cannot see. And then we're like, all right, is this just one study? Because those can be flawed. So we went to another study called Public Source, and they basically say the same thing a different way, which is the neighborhood or environment where you grow up is really going to affect your earnings potentials by and large without any other indicators in there. Then in Pittsburgh, adults born in Point Breeze, just one city, averaged $70,000 in salary and 78% had a job, as compared to Shady Side, which is another segment of Pittsburgh, which had an average income of $22K and an employment rate of 76K. And they call this the zone of proximal development, which basically means if you are born in a low income neighborhood, which we already kind of know, that then you are more likely to stay in said low income neighborhood if your geography doesn't change. Remember when you guys were in high school and we had those Petri dishes and we would like put little different things inside the Petri dish and then they would grow depending on what different things were inserted into the Petri dish. And at some point, you'd insert one little piece of bacteria into a Petri dish and all of a sudden mold would grow like crazy. You'd insert something else and there'd be crystals inside of your Petri dish. Now you start with the same Petri dish and you start with the same base, but depending on what you add, something different grows. And I think that's what this study is telling you, that if you do not add different things and you stay in the same place, you largely will stay the same as everybody else. And then there's this other study that talks about the zone of proximal development, which basically is this concept that a learner has one ability without help and another ability with help if it comes from a more knowledgeable person, which is like, yeah, no shit, Cody. But basically what this means is mentorship and being what you can see is a real thing. We can actually statistically say that if you are around more people that have XYZ, you are more likely to have XYZ, that thing that you are trying to achieve. Paul Graham had a really interesting sort of series of articles that we wrote on. And if you don't know Paul, he was an early investor in a ton of stuff: Stripe, Airbnb, Amazon, Dropbox. box. He says, roots grow where planted. Your environment shapes your ambitions. And then he says, great cities attract ambitious people. So if you want to create, maybe you go to Austin. Those are my words. If you want to make money, you go to New York or where Rachel is. If you want to be innovative, you go to Silicon Valley. If you want to raise venture, you go to Silicon Valley. And so what if the reason you don't achieve what you want to achieve is because your surroundings do not allow you to insert different things into your petri dish?
Hey, and welcome back to Those Who Put in the Work. I'm Codie Sanchez, and this is the Big Deal podcast. And this is a moneymaker. Little bite-sized episode for people who want to make some more money by building things. You guys are rare. All right, let's get into it this week. So this week is perfect for how to be a CEO people love, often an oxymoron. And also, what does it even mean to have your people love you? Because it is tough love in some ways. When I think about my business here at Contrarian Thinking, and we've been building this bad boy to have a 9-figure holding company, multiple businesses that do 8 figures each, a team that's locally based. I've wanted to build this business different than just about anything else. So when I was in finance and I built multiple businesses at First Trust and State Street and Entourage Effect Capital and all these different businesses, in finance, the thing is you have a very small group of people. So for instance, Warren Buffett manages a business that does hundreds of billions of dollars a year with 37 people. And in private equity, that's pretty similar. So you have these small teams that are super high performing. You really don't have a lot of entry level or low level talent. People come to you fully baked. You also typically in finance have very strict incentive structures. So like if we do this deal and we make money, people make money. And so it's very direct one-to-one correlation. This is important because most businesses aren't run this cleanly. And so as I've built a media business, I've realized, oh wow, the way that I build this business has to be totally different. So obviously I love creating content. We post like 50 pieces of it across all my platforms. And if you've ever created content, you know the uphill battle it can be to ideate, write, produce, film, video, and then you have to edit it all. So one of my favorite tools to use for this is Riverside. You've probably heard about it before, but I don't think people realize that it's revolutionized the podcast space by allowing creators all over the world to do the recording in 4K, regardless of internet speed. But they've just released an update that I think any creator is going to love. So along with the high quality video and audio that they've kind of become known for, you can have editing software so you can edit any video content directly in Riverside. If your team's a little bit more bougie like mine and wants to record the video themselves, and then you can upload it to Riverside so you can use their amazing AI tools afterwards. It can transcribe your video, add customizable caption, analyze that transcript to cut out any dead space in the video. And my favorite part, they have this AI editor feature that will pull short form from clips from my content so we can squeeze all the juice of it out from the many hours it takes to create it. If you think time is money like I do, then Riverside has given me and my team back lots of time, aka money. So I love these guys. And because I love you, I got you guys a deal. So try Riverside for yourself with the link in this episode's description. You can sign up for free using the link and discount code Cody at checkout for a discount on any paid plan. I cannot be the type of CEO I was before when I ran a finance company. And I was like, hey, you either hit these numbers by the end of the week, you either hit these numbers by the end of the quarter and you make millions, or you're fired, which is really how finance works. It's like you either are a top performer and you make millions of dollars, or you're fired, or we burn you out like crazy. So when I worked at Goldman back in the day, we worked 70, 80-hour weeks. There was no time off. We were in the office nonstop. I was in a cubicle all day. I had to wear a suit the entire time. I was always in before the boss. I never left before the boss left. That was just like what was expected. And now the culture has actually shifted, and I do not think you can run teams like that anymore, which is probably why the biggest consulting and financial companies have the highest turnover. Goldman Sachs used to cut 20% of its staff every single year, no matter what. Dead. And the big top performers, on average, an analyst stays at Goldman about 2 years, which is about how long I lasted. Anything past that, it does show that somebody has a high level of grit and dedication because it's super tough, but it's also not that much fun. And, I was talking with one of my other girlfriends she stayed at Goldman for a long time. She became super senior at the company. And she said it was really interesting because she watched one of her fellow MDs when her mother got sick. She had to take a lot of time off. She was in investment banking. And when she had to take a lot of time off, her colleagues started slowly stealing her investment banking clients. So she had this woman that had been at Goldman for 10, 11, 12 years and had committed her life to Goldman. Like no kids, no marriage. She was married to this place. She made a lot of money for it. But the second that she couldn't pour everything back into that business, her friends, her colleagues started stealing her clients. And I think that is a perfect example of why those cultures don't last long term. Because who wants to work at a place where the second that life happens to you, and it'll happen to all of us, they're going to not maybe fire you immediately, but they're going to steal from you, not help you cover, And then eventually, if you don't hit your goals, you will be fired almost immediately. There's really no second chances. And I think that is why most CEOs aren't loved, because sometimes business does necessitate a wartime CEO, which was famously popularized by the CEO of Dell, that you can have a peacetime CEO, nice, buddy, no big deal, foosball tables. That was everybody in tech up until the last 2.5 years. And then over the last 2.5 years, we've realized, oh my God, we have to hit our numbers and become profitable. And so people turn and become wartime CEOs. I think you have to have a mixture of both. Today, I want to dive into some ways that you can lead with a little bit more love. And maybe a word that I don't think is used enough in leadership, which is humor. So I think humor is one of the most underrated business tools that we have in relationships, in life, in everybody. I do believe the truth that you shouldn't call people in your business your family, because at the end of the day, you're probably not going to fire mom and dad unless they're really fucking awful, but you might have to let somebody go from one of your businesses. Now, I do think you can say that they are your friends, and I do think you could say that they are your team. Because a high-performing team is really what? It's a group of individuals coming together with a shared goal and mission for a period of time in their life that may become incredible friends together, but may not travel through time together on the exact same team. But even after a member has left the team, they could still be buddies over the long term. And that is what I aim for at my companies. A high-performing team with a bunch of people that are friends. Because I do think you can be friends with your employees, just not the negative way that people think about it. If I couldn't joke and be friendly with my employees, it would be miserable to come to work every day. We spend way more time here than just about anything else. And so why wouldn't we choose to do business with friends? It's way more fun. What's interesting is if you break this down sort of mathematically, 25-year-olds spend on average about 275 minutes per day alone. But the next biggest segment, they spend about 200 minutes or 2.5 hours a day with their colleagues outside of work. So the average person spends about 90,000 hours, they say, of their lifetime at work. So if you do not get to work with your friends, then what are you doing for the entire day? If you've ever worked alongside somebody that you don't like, you know how perfectly miserable that can be. And I've been there. And what you have to realize as a leader is that your team feels that on steroids, because if they have to work with somebody that they don't like, unlike you as the boss, you can control the narrative, right? You can walk away. You can tell that person you don't want to speak right now. You cannot have a meeting. But if they are a fellow employee for your employers, for your employees, it's a lot harder for them to create their own boundaries. And so every time you have somebody that your teammates do not like, it's one thing. They don't have to be best buds. But if there is something toxic happening in the culture, you've got to move them on. Because I truly think that half the world's problems for young men and women today could be solved with long nights, building something that they care about together, becoming better humans. And so that includes friends. So how do you bring humor into your business and into your employer? Well, I think first, it starts with you. Nothing better than making a little fun of yourself if you want to start showing other people that it's okay to loosen up slightly. Especially as the CEO, sometimes you could be sort of intimidating. I've gotten told that I am sometimes. I remember I really knew that one of the CEOs I hired, shout out Bobby, I was going to love after members of his team started giving him a hard time. You see, Bobby drinks like an insane amount of Monsters. Like, he's a very large human, but he drinks way too many Monsters. I like that because I think anybody who's like psychopathic enough to midday Monster drink, early morning Monster drink, is probably going to be an animal and absolutely crush it at work. And that is exactly what he does. But more than that, I loved it because I saw his team when he came over and started running a business for me. His team would comment on the things that he talked about with monster emojis. And I thought that was really funny. It kind of showed that his team knows who he is and makes little jokes about it. Now, he's hard driving, but they've all sort of bonded over the hard together. A lot of people ask me, how could you get better friends? How could you get people to go through time together with you? You and Chris seem like you have a great network. The best place to start that is where you work. Because when you go through hard things together with your friends, the bond solidifies. And so that's why I like building hard things in business, because I get to see who shows up. Who's the type of person I want to spend life with? And Bobby was exactly that. One of the examples that I did in the beginning, which the team will laugh at about this, is when I first started on the internet, I said I would never dance on the internet. And I still stand by that statement, except One time I did on TikTok. I did a horribly embarrassing dance that I will not repeat now. And that dance I circulated as like, oh my God, you guys look at this. This is so embarrassing that I did it. That dance has followed me for like the better part of a year and a half across multiple team members. It's been gifted down by people who have changed job positions. And anytime, I'm saying something silly or they want to make a funny PowerPoint, they throw that up in there. So how can you make fun of yourself so that your team feels comfortable and feels like you guys are vibing? I think that easy way to do it is you kind of turning yourself into a meme. So at our company, we got a big meme culture here. And, started a couple different ways, but I have a friend, Nick, who he only sends messages to me that are memes. Do you guys have any friends like that? Like, it's like you don't actually talk. It's just memes back and forth. And what I thought about when I was watching that is, man, every time Nick texts me, what's my natural reaction? Well, my physical reaction is to laugh. So when I get a text message from Nick, I open it because I'm like, I bet this is going to be funny, right? He has trained me like Pavlov's dog to think that I'm going to get a little treat when I get a text message from him. Now, sorry, Mom, but like how when you haven't talked to your mom for a while, she'll be like, well, I miss you too, honey. Well, I haven't seen you in a while. And she'll like text you stuff like that. And so I know when I get a text from my mom, I'm like, oh man, what did I do? Is she going to tell me it's bad that I haven't called her in a while? Probably all of you have a friend that or a friend or a family member where you're like, oh no, what's going to come up with this text, right? So you train people the way that they're going to respond with you. And it's the same with our team. So we had a member of the team, Joe, and he sort of famously kept this thing called a meme folder, which I thought was genius. And inside of the meme folder was a bunch of memes from the team over the years. And he actually passed it on to another member of the team when he left to go build his own business. And I thought this was so funny because one, you're leaving a little bit of a legacy. And two, you can be sort of the vibe giver inside of a company. And so I think that is a really cool idea to do continuously. One way that I install memes sort of nonstop and what I do is I think about selling inside of my company just as much as I think about selling outside of my company. So I 1,000% do more presentations internally than I do externally. Then those presentations often will have a little meme in them. One of our more famous memes at the company that we use a lot now is called Hold My Beer. And so at the company, when we try to hit a goal, oftentimes people will be like, all right, it's a hold my beer moment. This allows you to have group interaction and verbiage and language, which is one of the most important parts to cult building, also culture building, which is really not that different at a company. We just took our portfolio company insights and put it into a step-by-step scaling course for you and anybody wanting to scale a small business. It's linked in the show notes if you're looking to grow your business to make a little bit more money with less pain and more profit. This thing is for you. The next thing that I think is really important to talk about is your people are watching every move that you make. They're listening to what you're saying, but they're really watching the moves that you make. And so I do something that I call leave with a shine. Your people actually are watching the way that you let people leave a company more than anything else. They are watching the way that you let high performers go and the way that you let low performers go. And when you let a high performer go and you talk shit about them, they will never forget that because they know that if they're a high performer, that is how you are going to treat them when they leave. And so it's really important to watch the way that you let people leave your company, even if they're the ones leaving or if you let them go. Now, I'm not a believer in bullshitting people. So if somebody leaves my company and is let go or leaves what wasn't a right fit, I'm not going to lie to them and be like, they were an incredible performer. Thank you so much for everything that you did to this company while you're here. If they didn't do that much, I'm going to say, I'm excited for your next opportunity and I wish you the best moving forward. I'm going to be honest. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it for people that weren't a good fit for our company. I'm not going to make them look bad, but I might say at our company, it is required for you to do the things that you say that you do. And we can't have people at our company that don't do the things that they say that they're going to do. And so we've decided to part ways and wish them all the best, but this was not the fit for them. And so I think your employees want to know you're going to be honest. You're also not going to talk shit. And so, for instance, we had a member of our team that I had mentioned before, Joe. He was based in Minneapolis, and the team, are all in Austin, and we just really needed somebody here locally to manage the content. And it was becoming too hard with Joe being remote. Too many things were getting missed. And he actually proactively brought it up to me and was like, I don't know if this is working that great that I'm not here. Now, I, of course, tried to talk him into moving, and love you, Joe. I think that this would have been an incredible opportunity for him to build here in Austin. But with all due respect, he had a new fiance. They're very tied to Minneapolis and he wanted to stay there. And so that was incredible. I wished him well. I told him that, hey, when you need your first investor for your new company, when you need help and you get stuck, call me. We text each other still to this day. And when he left, I told everybody the story. I said, you know what? Good for him. He could have drugged this out more. And he was right, because when he left the company, we 2 to 3x'd our short form growth because we were just able to move faster locally. And thankfully, that's not really saying anything bad about Joe. It's just saying he had the foresight to say that. And I thought that was really incredible. And your people are watching you when your best people leave. So be careful how you treat them. The other thing I'd say is, as an employee too, always really good to keep your options on the table as opposed to burn the bridge. Joe let me have 30-day notice, which I thought was pretty incredible. Joe helped me try to find the next new person. And as often as you can do that and not taper off poorly at your prior company, those people will end up helping you for life. And, there's many instances where I ended up investing in somebody's company because they were awesome with the way they left. One more thing. Anything that you tell your employees at your company is going to get repeated. So be really careful the words you use and hold other people accountable for the words that they use in your company. So for instance, I had one employee, this was at my last firm, First Trust. This employee, she called one of our clients an idiot. And not to his face, but, in what was Slack at the time, we used a different system, but, basically said, hey, oh yeah, typical idiot, client wants XYZ, wants all the money with none of the headache, blah, blah, blah. Kind of said something like that. Seemingly innocuous. But here's a problem. If we treat and talk about our clients as idiots, do you think that we will serve them better than anybody else? Do you think that they will want to buy from us? Will they feel like we think highly of them when we're calling them idiots behind their back? Of course not. So I immediately sat down with her and I said, hey, at this company, we can't eat, we can't go on trips, we can't have this nice office unless we get really smart people to buy from us. And so we can never, even if we disagree with a client, call them names. That's just a rule I have here. And listen, you can do whatever you want. If you want to call people an idiot and that's how you want to communicate, you have every right to do that. You just can't do it at this company. So you get to kind of choose between the two. And of course, she said, oh, hey, I won't do that again. But it is a really important reminder that I said, now you did this in a group channel. So other people saw it, which means that I have to now address it with the company. I'm not doing this to call you out, but I do have to call this action out. So you're aware. I'm not asking for her permission to do it. I'm making sure that I set the vibe. I set the culture fit, which is really important inside of your company. And then another thing I think we've got to realize with friends is that friends and team members both can have boundaries, like we talked about in the beginning. On the last Chris Voss episode, if you guys haven't watched it, you should go back and watch it. It's incredible. He talks about there are 3 types of negotiators, but really I say communicators. And communicators just mean another employee in the company. There are accommodators, there are analysts, and there are assertives. When you get together with your friends and with your employees, you're going to find that you probably employ all of them. I am an assertive, which means that mutual respect first is important to me, and I can come off as emotional, like aggressively emotional or harsh. I know that about myself. Now we've got an analyst. They're like data first mindset, and they can come off cold as distant. And then we've got accommodators who are relationship first and they're friendly, but sometimes they can be too talkative. So can you imagine what happens when you get people in a room where one's super assertive, harsh, respect first, one's data oriented, quiet, kind of cold seeming, and another one is chatty Cathy and also all about the relationship. Well, the relationship employee only really wants to engage for you to feel good. That's the most important part to them. We want to make sure everybody feels good. The assertive's like, I want to get this done. I want to be efficient. I want to be fast. And so you have to realize in your friends and family, you're going to have to set some boundaries because you guys are going to communicate differently. And so for instance, at Contrarian Thinking right now, we have one member of the team who is a total accommodative, which means incredible employee, works really hard, wants to talk forever. As an assertive, that makes me want to bore my eyes out. And probably when I communicate with her sometimes, she's like, God, could you stop being so intense? And could we just have a nice conversation? Because I want you to feel nice and we both want to like each other. We had to have the tough conversation of like, hey, my communication style is pretty abrupt and specific and to the point. And I realize that yours is much more wide ranging, broad, and you really want to get to know me. In order for me to get done what I need to get done, I can't communicate in this way, but I want you to know that it's really important to me that you know. And then I listed off a bunch of stuff that I knew about her. Hey, Brad, your husband, is super important to you, that I'd love to have, the cat over to hang out with the dog one time, that, it's really important for me to go paddleboarding on the weekend too. And we could do some of those things together, but in this office setting, this is the way that I have to communicate. Just because you're friends doesn't mean you can't have boundaries. In fact, the worst thing you could do in the world for an accommodative is not tell them this stuff, and they're always wondering why you're running away from them. So think about that with your teams. When it comes to being a CEO that your people love, make sure that you don't confuse being loved and being liked. There are very many CEOs that I loved the way they pushed me. I loved the vision that they had for the company. I loved their ability to speak. I loved the way that they got things done. But I might not have liked a lot of the things that they did. I might not have liked them as a human. We might not have been best buddies. The hard part about being a CEO is you got to give people the tough truth, or what I call sort of the tough love. And the tough love in some instances is in things like, I had an employee, she was at my financial company, and she could have been amazing. Like, she just had that fire in her, you can tell. She always did what she said she was going to do. She was going to be one of my MDs, my managing directors in Latin America. I wanted to promote her badly from an inside sales